this is a milestone. And this milestone feels different this year. It's heavier. When we launched this conference virtually in 2021, we were emerging from a year that shook the very foundation of our society. A global pandemic, police brutality, racial injustice, deepening political division. These crises collided, forcing a national reckoning for organizations across every sector, and we responded. Organizations pledged commitments to anti-racism, and they began the hard and necessary work of embedding equity into their cultures, to their policies, and their practices. And yet, just 5 years later, we're seeing those commitments being rolled back. Under pressure and under threat, institutions are retreating. For many, sustaining their organization and protecting livelihoods of their staff means scaling back and abandoning the very DEI commitments they once championed. We're living in a time where the very idea of equity itself is under attack, where diversity and inclusion is weaponized into divisive rhetoric, where books that tells our stories are being banned, where voices speaking truth to power is being silenced. Our protections for our most vulnerable are being dismantled with the stroke of a pen. But this is not new. Every generation has faced backlash for inching toward justice. For every step forward, there's been a calculated attempt to make us doubt our progress, our purpose, and our power, to make us doubt what we know is possible. Because that's their strategy, to shock us, to intimidate us, to make us feel scattered, small, and really powerless. But we know better. We've seen this before, and every time we rise stronger, more united, and even more determined. Looking around the room today, it's so powerful to see you all coming here in this space. And it's powerful because nonprofit leaders that are here, advocates that are here, mentors or educators, students, parents, you are not just representing your units or your organizations, you're representing something greater. You're representing the power of us. Now let me be clear that this is not just a tagline, it's a declaration. Because in Tacoma, in Spanaway, Parkland, Lakewood, Faircrest, Yakima, Spokane, Seattle, in every after-school program, in every school hallway, we know what's possible when communities come together and lead. When policies shift and fear spreads, something else rises, a quiet courage, a collective refusal, this groundswell of coordinated action from people who refuse to lose. We've taken righteous rage and we've transformed it into collective power. And in this moment, we can't afford to retreat. We must remember who we are, how we got here, and what we're capable of together. Yes, we are better together. We know that. But so often, it gets lost in the noise. It gets lost on how we work together. The noise, real or manufactured, distracts us. It confuses us and it divides us. It pits us against each other and it forces us into the scarcity mindset and siloed strategies, threatening the very systems that we've been working hard to build together. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that this moment doesn't come with real consequences, because it does. We see families hiding. We know layoffs are rising. We feel the impacts of inflation compounding with every reckless decision that's being made by this administration and the ones before it. This is not noise, it's real harm that we, the people, are bearing. However, it's also true that the chaos is being amplified, fueled by misinformation, rushed advice, and contradicting guidance. And when we let that noise guide our actions, our communities are losing. And they're losing something that we can't afford. They're losing their power. As I approach a decade with the Foundation for Tacoma Students, an organization that has been deeply committed and rooted in my home, in the neighborhoods where my children play, and in the streets where my parents and my parents before them walked, I carry with me this work of urgency because the struggles that we face today are echoes from generations past. I lived them as a student, I've watched them affect my own children, and I refuse to let that define our future. Backbone organizations like the Foundation exist to align, to help stay rooted in our shared goals, and help us to understand what shifts and opportunities are needed. Because true leadership isn't confined to just one voice. You heard the mayor say this. Leadership in its most powerful form is in many voices, moving in unison with integrity, committed to something bigger than just ourselves. True systems change doesn't just trickle down. It rises up from the community. It's built in relationships, it's rooted in trust, and it's supported by a collective strength. We must be both pragmatic and principled, adaptive yet unwavering in our values. The true test of our commitment is not when the path is clear, but honestly, when it's unclear. And at the Foundation, we're not exempt from understanding that the noise can distract us and that we can lose sight of our way. Like many of you, we've taken on far too much during the pandemic. We overextended ourselves. We lost our convening power. We were not situated in the true focus that we had, particularly to get every young person on a path to some meaningful, obtainable opportunity in post-secondary. And what we know is that we are regrounding ourselves because our students are not just a line item, and our work is not charity. Our work is justice. I want you for just a second to imagine. Imagine a moment and a place where a child is met with open arms and open doors, where the trauma that they carry is met with love and not labels. That's what Amara and Hope Sparks are doing and building every single day. Imagine now people finding their purpose and belonging, not just in a classroom, but in after school. That's what Beyond the Bell is creating here in this community. Think about community mentors who don't just guide youth through school, but walk them through life and life's struggles. That's the commitment that Friends of the Children is making. Or imagine a community where every student's story begins with possibility and not poverty. That's what Palmer Scholars believes in. A future where mental health isn't a luxury, but a lifeline that's supported by infrastructure and systems. That's what Mental Health Pierce County is pushing forward. This is what happens when community comes together and when community steps up. When organizations don't just coexist, they collaborate and build a web of support that is so strong, children do not fall through the cracks. That's what we've been building in this community for years. That is the power of us. The resistance isn't in the Capitol or in policies. In fact, the resistance is us. It's in places like Bethel Schools, who create centralized hubs to support students when no services were available. It's in schools like Franklin Pierce, where they welcomed refugee families and embraced them when the government told them they shouldn't be here, they should be deported just for living peacefully. It's in schools like Mount Tahoma, where communities are welcome to do pop-up supports for young people, offering students and families personalized support to a very complex federal system. It's in shared services agreements across multiple agencies like Tacoma Arts Live, Green Trike, Boys and Girls Club, and YMCA, all who are trying to build a better coordinated system within Pierce County for expanded learning. It's also in organizations like ours who are building infrastructure to scale what works, turning public investments into lasting impacts. During a time where we are so forced to believe we must hide our truth and jeopardize our collaborative efforts that helps every child achieve success, I'm gonna say to you all, let's go underground. Give them their front-facing, passive language, forego naming DEI to those who know nothing about mission-driven work. Rewrite your mission statements if you must, but behind the curtain, let's continue to build on something unstoppable, a modern-day underground movement, one that Harriet will be proud of. And let's do so knowing that the very communities that we serve, who are already and have always been burdened by a system, need not worry about this because they have no capacity to take it on. We are being tested and targeted, but we've seen this before, and we'll see it again. And every time we've seen this, we've innovated, we've adapted, and we've led with purpose. So let us do that again. Let us shift culture, let us rewrite narratives, let us build, fail, learn, and try again. Because that is what makes us relentless. Let us be us. The power of us lives in the stories that we share, and I hope that you're able to share stories in this space this week. Let us work on building bridges. It is our right to build joint communication, joint advocacy, joint strategies that really helps more young people feel like they have the safety net that they need. Knowing that when we are together, we can be unstoppable. The power of us must also be in restoration. It must be through joy and community and through rest. A place where we can breathe and be seen, to pour on each other and to refuel, because when we're at our best, our kids are at our best. So I'll leave you with this, getting us to our program ahead. Lean in, stay focused, keep investing in what matters, even if it feels contradicting to what you're hearing come down the pike. Focus on your truth and your agency. Be the leader, even if it feels like you are being siloed and marginalized in your own institution. Real leaders don't come from following all of the rules. They come from bending those, bending those rules in order to meet the needs of their community. And my ask to you all is, let's not be scared in this moment. Let us actually rise together. Let us focus on one another, and let us ensure that every child that needs our support gets that.